Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while since I've done a video, so I'm just going to try and break the curse of not doing anything by doing a lovely quick review of this book, The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris, not to be confused with Robert Harris, who does historical novels about Roman politics or something like that. Very different books. This is about murder and intrigue. Actually, maybe they're not that dissimilar. Maybe they're not that dissimilar at all. So, The Silence of the Lambs, what is this about? This book is a book that you maybe not have read, but maybe you've seen the film, because the film adaptation of this won Oscars and stuff. I think it won Best Picture. That's like the best Oscar you can win. So let's just go very briefly into the plot. The plot follows FBI trainee Clarice Starling as she is drafted in to help her boss find a serial killer called Buffalo Bill, and to do that they're going to need to draw on the expertise of another serial killer, Hannibal Lecter, who is introduced in the book before that one. It's not a prequel because it's something that came first. This is a sequel to that. So it's the book before that, which is called Red Dragon, which was turned into a film twice, and they're all right. It's not a film review. I could do a film review, but it's not a film review, this one, so we'll leave that there. So yeah, basically it's a story everybody knows by now. It's about, you know, the psychological struggle between these two characters. Clarice is the upcoming FBI profiler, sort of trainee, and Hannibal Lecter is this genius psychiatrist who is also demented cannibal. But interestingly, and we'll talk about this more later, it's not at first what it seems with those with the characters the way they are, and I will go into that in detail a bit later. But first we need to talk about the writing style. So the writing style of this book is actually very interesting. I was surprised by it actually going in, because in other thrillers that I've read, even though it's fantasy, I would consider the Dresden Files series to be sort of thrillers. And then we've got obviously the Da Vinci Code, the Robert Langdon books. They're very straightforward in terms of the narrative structure. It's fixed POV for the most part. The Da Vinci Code jumps between Langdon and one other character. So sometimes there's a bit of jumping around, but for the most part it just sort of follows one character from one perspective. The Silence of the Lambs is a bit different. It follows multiple different characters, but it does the narrative style is it was confusing for me at first, because it sometimes jumps perspective, not in terms of, obviously it jumps perspective in terms of the character, but it jumps perspective in terms of sort of the tense that it's using. Sometimes it uses present tense, where most of the time it uses past tense, and I think the reason for that is to create a sort of documentary / reconstruction sort of thing. This is like, imagine this being a TV special about this case, basically, and the scenes where it's not in third person past tense, it's like, you know, it's like Clarice goes into the room and she opens the door. It's like that's the narration of the reconstruction, as obviously it's going on screen, because you can't see it. It needs to narrate it in text. You see what I mean? Maybe all of that is just in my head, but that is the impression I got from reading the book. And maybe I'm just making an excuse for something that's just sloppy writing. I don't know, but it works for me with the style of book that it is. And yeah, that's all I have to say really about the writing style. Do you see why I usually script these? Let's just go ahead and talk about the characters. So the characters of this story, very interesting actually. They're very much more in depth than I would have given it credit for, especially having had experience from the film version. The characters are very straightforward in that. Like Hannibal Lecter is just a psychiatric genius. He just knows all the things, you know. And then you've got Jack Crawford in that, who's just he's just a very straight-laced guy. He's Clarice's boss. He doesn't really do much. And then there's Clarice, obviously, who's this sort of morally pure protector of people, wants to do a good job. But in the book version, and I guess this is no real surprise because you've got a lot more time to sort of grow things in a book. The characters are a lot more in depth, and they explore the weaknesses of the characters a lot more. And I think that is something that the film lacks, is exploring the weaknesses of the characters. Not so much Clarice, because in the film, you know, Clarice is the most fleshed out character, because being the lead character. But in the book, all the characters are sort of delved into psychologically, and we see what makes them tick, and that makes the back and forth between them more interesting, because you know, we get a look into what makes Hannibal Lecter tick, for example. Like in the film, he's just sort of a prick, but he's doing what they want, so it's okay. But in the book, we sort of learn the reasons why he's helping them and what is motivating him, and they can use those things to work against him, and that's really, really strong in the book, and it makes a very compelling read. And I'm really glad they did that in the book. In the film, obviously, it works for a film because you don't need as much detail, but in the book, fantastic. Let's move on to the next part, shall we? So this book is actually really well paced, and it's something that I do flag up in every review I do, is the pacing of a book. And there is a reason for that I think gets lost in a lot of books where the pacing is just sort of satisfactory, because, you know, a lot of people say in terms of pacing, you can say something as, oh, it's a quick read or it's a slow read, and often people equate slow reads to being bad reads. That's not necessarily the case. In this case, this was a very fast read. It read very quickly, but there were segments where it knew when to pull back. You know, it has those sort of longer chapters in there, and it has, obviously, it's got the fast chapters that a thriller needs to pull you through, especially towards the end and the climax. But for a lot of it in the middle, you know, when we're exploring the characters, it takes its time, it lets itself breathe, and that is the masterwork of pacing. It's the book is giving you the time you need to enjoy different aspects of it, whilst at the same time not getting bogged down in things that we don't need to get bogged down in. Pacing is very different for different genres, and this, for me, was the perfect thriller pacing, so yeah, thumbs up for that. So we come now to the Arbitrary Star Award, which is the award I gave out mainly because I forgot, you know, I can't think of a fifth category. So basically this is just me telling you, would I recommend reading this book? And of course I would. Like, the reasons I would recommend it are for all of the reasons above. You know, the plot is solid, the writing is really interesting, the characters are really well developed and fleshed out, and it's a perfect paced read. You know, you could read it in a couple of days easy. You probably could read it all in one day if you wanted to. It really is a very easy read, and it does exactly what it needs to for the book style that it is, which is a thriller. I can't say yes to all of those categories and then not say, you know, don't give it a read. The reasons why you might not want to give it a read: if you're a bit squeamish, obviously the descriptions are very, you know, it's very visceral in a lot of places. It could make people uncomfortable, but I don't think that's a reason you should shy away from a book unless you really feel that it would make you uncomfortable. Obviously, you don't have to read it, but it's a good read if you do fancy a thriller. So if you're going to pick up a thriller this holiday season, what are we in, February? It's not even, this isn't a Valentine's Day read. I can't recommend this for February, but if you're going to read this at some point, definitely do, because yeah, I mean, five-star read for me. That's all I can really say on that. There's just a couple of little things I wanted to go through before I left, a little bit on the informal side. Obviously, this review, as you can see, is just me sitting here talking about a book, which is different than the way I've done reviews in the past, which is with all the pictures and stuff. That is coming to an end because I've discovered, obviously, it takes far too long. It just takes too long to do for each book that I'm going to read, and because I want to review every book I read this year. So you're going to get some more reviews coming up this week. I don't know what sort of schedule it's going to be like, but I'm trying to catch up now. So you're going to get a few more reviews, and I'm going to be doing longer analytical things using that picture style, because it's going to take some time to do, but I think it's worth doing because it is something a bit more interesting, and especially with something a bit more involved. You know, I don't want to sit here for 20 minutes just holding this book up going, this is what's good about this book, you know. So for shorter videos like this, I'm just gonna do it in an informal on-camera style, but for longer things I'm gonna do you know, pictorial videos. I'm going to do a video soon, the next video that I do in that style, which will, I guess, be the first one, unless you count my my sort of limited Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep analysis. I want to talk about Superman protagonists in books. This was inspired by recently reading and finishing The Name of the Wind, which has a very interesting Superman protagonist, and I think there's a lot to talk about there, so I'm going to do a bit of a longer video on that. And the last thing is just I wanted to show something off, because, you know, vanity's always fun, well, sometimes. So let's just pick this up here, get it all in frame. This is a quotation thing that my friend Amy did for me upon request, but is available to purchase, and if you can see clearly without a glare on the screen, it is a quote from the Series of Unfortunate Events TV series, and it says, in every library there is a single book that can answer the question that burns like a fire in the mind. And that is a quote that I thought was, it struck me as really a nice thing to say about books, and I just wanted to show you book lovers that I have this. And you, if you live in England, if you live in the UK, you can have it too. I'll leave the link to her Etsy store in the description. She does all sorts of different watercolours and book quotes and things that you can have as a print. Mainly Harry Potter stuff. I know Harry Potter's a big thing on BookTube. Not my cup of tea, but it's there. So give that a look. If you like this video, subscribe to me. If you also liked this video, there's no way to say you can. If you like it, subscribe and leave a like and leave a comment if you want to talk to me about The Silence of the Lambs, or if you have any ideas for topics you'd like to see me talk about at length. That's really all I have for now, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.